You're listening to the Multiverse Fancast, proud member of the Misfit Faction Media Network.
All right then, on with the show.
Hello and welcome back to the Multiverse Fancast. This is your host Rob talking to you live from the studio today. We've got some special things coming your way with some good surprises, and it's Oscar time, so we are going to be tackling some Oscar-ish things. Don't forget though, before I get into that, you can take us on the go with Podbeam, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or any other listening stations, and you can also check out our content on the website, the Misfit faction.com, where you can get all of our shows, surprises, you can look at some merch, you can read some articles. And with me today to tell you more about that is my good friend Paul. How are you today, Paul?
I'm good, Rob. How you doing today?
I'm jazzed.
Yeah, because this is your wheelhouse today.
This is.
You're the one who is excited for this one.
Oh my gosh, so much so.
I just pressed the record button tonight.
He already told me, he's like, you're in charge of this one. I got this one. This one's all mine.
I am here to add 7, maybe more jokes.
I've got the jazz drum score in my head as we go.
I'm here.
Okay.
I am present for this episode.
So tell us a little bit about our affiliates program.
So if you guys, don't forget, if you are looking to start your own podcast, looking to start your own show, have been listening to us for like 4 or 5 years now. We've been doing this for a while, and you guys have gotten that itch, that desire. You want to try your hand at podcasting because maybe you have a great idea, maybe you have something you're working on, maybe you have something that would benefit from a podcast. If you guys go to podbean.com/misfitfaction, you get a free month of podcasting as a gift from us to you. And if you guys are starting your own show or have your own show and you're looking to network or build your brands, reach out to us. Go to themisfitfaction.com or email us at misfitfaction@gmail.com. Message us on Facebook, whatever it is, and we would love to talk to you and help you not only get started, but also help you grow your show, and maybe there's a spot for you in our little merry band of misfits. Ooh. Now, if you are a business owner or you have an online service or product that you like to use, podcasts are everywhere. There are literally millions of shows at this time, and what better way than to show off your product than by advertising if you guys use our affiliate link, and that is sponsorship.podbean.com/misfitfaction. You will get $100 worth of free advertising, again, as a thank you from us to you, because we love you guys.
Aww. Oh, well, thank you very much for that. And we will start off now with a little bit of news.
Does it freak you out when you have to do the news when you're hosting?
A little bit. I'm unsure of myself right now.
If it makes you feel any better, when you were doing the intro, I literally sat here going, no, that's my thing.
We're interchangeable at this point, I think, which is a good thing.
Like detachable arm kid?
So our first bit of news is a bit of sad news that we bring to you. This week, we lost Oscar winner and great actor William Hurt. And we bring it up on this show because William Hurt was, he's known for many, many things, but as far as this show is concerned, he was General
Thaddeus Ross.
What's his full name?
Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross.
Thunderbolt Ross. He was all the way back in the Hulk. He's been in a few different of the Marvel movies, and he will be very missed. He was only 71 years old. He's better known to some of us older folks as the lead from broadcast news. Oh my gosh, Children of a Lesser God with Marley Matlin. I remember him from back there in the 80s. He's oh my gosh, holy cow, I completely forgot Kiss of the Spider Woman. Also, one of my favorites with Kathleen Turner, Body Heat, which is such a good film noir. I love Body Heat. And in The Doctor, he was in Until the End of the World. He's just such an amazing actor, and it's just so unbelievably sad. He died of natural causes. That's all they're saying.
Surrounded by friends and family.
Yeah, so we do wish the Hurt family well during this difficult time, and we will definitely miss you tremendously so, Mr. Hurt.
And unfortunately, going off of that too, this one's for producer Melanie, because I know this one hurt her. WWE two-time Hall of Famer Scott Hall passed away. Also, he was on life support. I believe it was like 3 heart attacks or something like that, and they took him off life support earlier, I think last night. And Sister Melanie, for those of you guys who don't know, is a huge wrestling fan. She loves wrestling. She's it's one of her weird passions that I never knew about until we started like really dating and then got engaged. But she was really heartbroken about it. So I wanted to just do a quick shout out and, rest in peace to two amazing entertainers, really.
Yes. And with Scott Hall, he was, I know this is going to sound young, 63, but in the WWE, that's pretty good because there's so many of them that die at such a young age in the WWE because of the extreme stress
lifestyle.
That they put themselves under with their bodies and everything. So
also, it was no secret that in the 80s and early 90s, like,
oh my gosh,
it was cocaine and partying and like, you hear stories from people that have experienced it, and they're basically like, wrestling was like one big party.
Gosh. I remember watching like Jimmy Superfly Snuka taking razor blades to the forehead just to make himself bleed.
The things that they would do, because say what you will about wrestling as entertainment, it's a very physically demanding sport. It is a sport. I'll argue it. Like, you still have to be at a certain physical level. Nowadays, it's a lot different with, guys like The Rock or John Cena who, take it to a certain professional level. But, I grew up on Hulk Hogan and watching him try and act like that.
Yeah.
I remember. It was
No Holds Barred. I worked in a movie theater
The Nanny.
when No Holds Barred came out.
Yeah,
back in
we remember The Nanny. That was like
The Nanny.
His first big one. But then it's just then it was Stone Cold Steve Austin with the Suck It and all that, that generational time where we got in trouble for doing that at school. But it's crazy. Like,
I don't think I knew that about producer Mel, that she was a WWE fan.
Big WWE, big wrestling fan in general.
I'll have to chat her up with some of that.
And a huge crush on The Rock, but
don't we all
at this point?
More comic book news. This coming in from Ronnie, who could not join us this evening.
Chose not to join us.
Is that what he's gonna?
He's getting married this week, and he's like busy.
Yeah, he's got like meetings and stuff, and he's got to approve like small hot dogs on sticks and stuff like that. So
I really hope those are there. I love those, but anyway. No, Ronnie, he wanted to be here tonight, but obviously with his wedding being, we're even recording earlier than we normally do, just so we were able to get an episode for
before the wedding,
because I don't think I'm going to be doing much on Sunday.
No, I agree with you.
Might even edit this beforehand.
And this is a tough weekend because not only do we have the wedding, but St. Patty's is 2 days beforehand.
Well, I'm not doing anything. I'm not going to work. But anyway.
No. But this is from Ronnie. Ronnie texted us this information. HBO Max is working on a Harley Quinn spinoff starring, of all people, one of the people here, you know what I'm going to say, one of the people that I said needed their own spinoff series a couple weeks ago, Kite Man. Yes, Kite Man is taking flight over at HBO Max. It will be a spinoff of the Harley Quinn show, and it will probably be adult-centered.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
How exciting for Kite Man getting his due.
I'm about it. Like Harley Quinn, I haven't seen all of it. I've seen bits and pieces here and there. It is very funny, and it is very R-rated. And I think DC's actually finding their groove with their unrated material, and HBO Max has proven to be. As much as we love Disney Plus and we love the Disney Plus shows, I think the quality of Marvel hasn't gone up or down with their Disney Plus shows. It's been pretty consistent. Yeah. But like HBO Max has started blowing things away. Yeah. First it was Titans on DC Universe, which was good but got better. The last season was fantastic with Red Hood, and we did an episode I think on Titans, and we really enjoyed the last season. Young Justice, and then you have your Harley Quinn, you have your Peacemaker, which we, if you listen to our last episode, we loved. Yeah. So it's nice that HBO Max is not only finding their groove, but also DC's finding their groove with material that wouldn't work in movies.
Correct. And the kids are saying to me nowadays that HBO Max is the go-to streaming service for them over Netflix.
I will argue that HBO Max is my preferred as well.
I got to say, because I teach a film class, and a lot of the films that I show in that class, like today we just finished Citizen Kane, and it's on HBO Max, because some of the kids were like, I was absent this day, what can I do? And I'm like, oh, you go there and watch it. And I have to say their original programming is better than Netflix. Oh great, another Ryan Reynolds action comedy.
I do want to see The Adam Project. I haven't watched it yet. I heard it's very good.
Yeah.
But my issue is I don't like to binge.
No, nor do I.
I prefer the episodic release, and it's smart on their part. It keeps people engaged. Also, that makes it so that they have their shows longer. Yes. Netflix's problem is they need new viewers. Yeah. So they'll drop an entire season of a show, and then it's 3 years later that we have to wait. We did The Witcher, and that was a big, and that COVID was a factor of that. But in all honesty, like Netflix loses people because they drop entire seasons, Then it's a year later, I'll re-up my membership.
Yeah, I know.
But
yeah,
you know,
with something like HBO Max, they'll drop it, like as you said, 1 week at a time. And if they've got 10 episodes, that's 2.5 months.
yeah,
So,
that they have my
yeah.
business for.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, I could just do it at the end of it, but a lot of people they don't want to be spoiled.
No.
So,
And speaking of DC, we have good news. The Batman did really well in its second week in a box office.
Yeah, it did.
It's officially brought in $66.5 million, and it only had a 51% drop.
That's
second
huge.
weekend. That is and huge as in fantastic. Yeah, in fact, I read that it had a better second weekend drop than The Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that speaks to its success, and that I think we can check it off as a guaranteed success now.
And having said that, I think we mentioned last week about pushing back a bunch of the movies. They're doing reshoots on I believe Flash.
Yeah, and Aquaman maybe.
Biggest, most persistent rumor is that they're adding Henry Cavill's Superman into one of those movies.
Hope so.
I hope so too, and that's one of the reasons we obviously didn't see him in Peacemaker. But there's also rumors of having some sort of inclusion of Pattinson. If they do it right, whatever, that is what it is. But it's very interesting. What obviously money talks,
Yes.
and DC's found success again with Batman. And if they want to put it into their other products, it is what it is. Did you see they release concept art of Batman and Deathstroke?
I did see that. Actually, that's funny. I just saw that maybe 5 minutes ago.
Really cool.
Yeah.
It is a very cool looking Batsuit. Say what you will, there's never really been, with the exception of Batman and Robin, a bad Batsuit.
No, they've always had, their artwork has always been just fantastic.
And say your thoughts on Ben Affleck. He still has my favorite Batsuit. I liked Pattinson's. I really did.
Yeah.
I think if it was a lighter gray color, I would have really liked it. Very Arkham City-ish.
Yeah.
But Ben Affleck's is still my favorite because it's the most comic accurate for me. But I saw this concept art and I was like, all right.
Yeah, that's not bad. I'm looking at it right now, and I would say it looks very video game-ish.
Very video, but it also seems like a natural progression.
It does,
because you see him at the end of Justice League, both
Yep.
the Snyder Cut and Joss Whedon, where he has that more tactical armor, which is really cool looking. So it sucks. I mean, there's a lot of rumors, especially now that Discovery Plus and HBO Max are combining into one.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so there are a lot of rumors, especially and with Henry Cavill supposedly coming back for Superman, because he's the first one that's like, I'll do it. Just call me. I got the cape. Like he said that.
Happening on the other side of the pond, we have some Marvel news. So a lucky bunch of people got to see the first 4 episodes of Moon Knight.
That's more than half the show.
I know, considering it's a 6-episode show. And so they were able to tweet about it. That embargo has been lifted. And so far, what we're reading with the tweets is a lot of the same thing from every people. And a lot of them are saying it's completely different from anything Marvel has done before. I saw that phrase come up many, many times. Yeah, it's unlike anything we've seen before. Touch of Indiana Jones to it. Everyone's going to be talking about completely bonkers, a haunting event. Delivering, here's another one, lots of Indiana Jones style archaeology action. It's a lot of fun, a good blend of horror, action, and humor. That was a comment that I was really excited about. So I'm very they've been releasing little clips and they haven't released any clips yet. They've only been releasing like trailers and mini commercials and everything I've been seeing I'm impressed by so far.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for Moon Knight.
I'm holding my breath, especially considering I found it very interesting that basically in 1 week's time almost we have the release of Spider-Man: No Way Home on digital. Mm-hmm. Marvel, Netflix shows, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are going to Disney Plus.
Is that happening?
That's this week.
It is this week.
It's like tomorrow, I think.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I didn't realize it was that quick of a
16th.
turnaround.
And then we have Moon Knight coming out, and I'm like, what really convenient timing. Like they had the Daredevil, they had Matt Murdock in Spider-Man: No Way Home after they got the rights back.
Yeah,
they're
savvy.
And it makes me like sit here going, I wonder if.
Yeah,
but anyway.
and we are only 8 weeks away from Doctor Strange.
Yeah, it's getting close.
Yeah. And today they dropped. Now, not everyone in the studio is excited about this as I am. They dropped the Ms. Marvel trailer of Kamala Khan from Jersey City, who is playing the iteration of Ms. Marvel where she has different abilities than other Ms. Marvels. And Ronnie texted me, and his very specific words were, what did he say? I'm not Nope, not that comment. Nope, not that one either. Here it is. I'm not. He said, not digging it at all. I'm not a fan of angsty teen dramas, and the CGI was jarring. It's definitely giving me vibes, and it's going to be the worst Disney Plus live action show.
Yeah.
Now, I read those comments and I thought, okay, just prepare myself for what I'm going to watch. And then I put it on and I was totally jazzed by it. I loved the commercial. I thought it was a lot of fun. It had sort of for me, a Spider-Man Homecoming vibe to it, with the sort of goofy high school antics and everything. I loved it. It had a great soundtrack to it. He looks fantastic. She actually reminds me exactly of one of my students. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to see what happens with this girl in my class becomes a superhero. This is what it would look like. And she just looks like she's a lot of fun. And they didn't show her in full costume. They showed her from behind in the full costume.
And that they also released that as like a poster.
Yeah. So I cannot wait for it. And they declared June 8th. So I had said June 9th, so I was off by a day.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I'm right in the middle. Like, okay. I'm familiar enough with Miss Marvel and Kamala Khan. I find it interesting that they're not doing her powers comic accurately.
I don't know.
Or her origin.
Yeah.
In the comics, she's an Inhuman. Okay. And she has the power to what she calls embiggen, where she can grow parts of her body or shrink. Like she can grow really big. She can shrink. Very Mr. Fantastic-esque. So in this, it looks more like she's some sort of energy manipulation from some sort of artifacts. It looks like that she puts on.
Yeah, like on her wrist or something.
Yeah, some sort of bracelet. Now, I don't mind liberties. Right here, a perfect example. In Young Justice, they managed to do the character Apache Chief, and for those of you guys who don't know Apache Chief, he was a very stereotypical character of Native American culture, and his catchphrase was Apache Chief, ne cha, and he would just grow.
Oh, that's right. Oh, that's so awful.
So what they did first and foremost, they treat it with a lot more respect now. Yeah. He is part of an Apache tribe, and he lives on a reservation, and he's friends with Jaime Reyes, and they say you come from a long line of Apache chiefs, like that. He doesn't ever refer to himself as such, but in this iteration, he instead creates an energy kind of being around him. So he's in the middle of it, and the being forms around him, and it's a much better version instead of just getting bigger. It's different. It's interesting. I would have no problem if she created energy constructs around her body because unfortunately stretching abilities can be very goofy looking.
Yes.
And they're very hard to do because in our mind, the Uncanny Valley is just too tough. Say what you will about Fan Forstick, they did actually a decent job with some of the shots of Reed Richards doing the stretching ability, especially when it was just his arm and he'd pull himself
horrifying,
up.
Actually.
The body horror was there, but they're taking a lot of liberties. And also, I think they want to stay away from Inhumans.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure where they're going. It's been a long time since I've read the comics, because I read them when they first came out, which I want to say is maybe 8 years ago or something like that. And I do like that they are sticking to the Jersey Muslim roots,
which is fine. Which is great. Apparently, also I hate that we have to talk about this.
Is this the PC police knocking at the door?
The PC no. I guess there were some negative comments about the femininity.
Femininity. Don't worry, we'll edit that out.
We don't edit of the guidance counselor in that. So I guess people were making comments about his orientation, which whatever it is, it's not like they say it in. So Marvel actually put out a statement going, "We support all," very. So people.
The trailer just came out a few hours ago. They're already bad-mouthing.
They're already trolls. Yep.
Oh God.
But we don't care about that. But I wanted to bring it up just because Marvel did put out a statement, and I was like, "What are they talking about?"
Weird.
That's how blasé I was about it, because I don't care.
I gotta say, and this is a total honest reaction. When I saw the guidance counselor, I'm like, "Yeah, that's totally what a guidance counselor looks and acts like."
God, people need more. Then don't watch it. If you want to make fun of it, don't watch it.
It was his attitude of that completely I'm trying to identify with you as a teenager kind of attitude, but I'm an adult. That kind of got cringy when I watched it, but it's completely accurate.
I am curious to see if the aesthetic that they put in there with the thought bubbles and stuff like that, is that just for the trailer? Is that going to be a thing Kamala does? Because that would be very jarring if that's the case. Even Deadpool, when he breaks the fourth wall, it feels more natural.
Right.
So I'm curious, and also it's rough getting all these young Avengers. How are they going to stand next to Sam Wilson? Even Spider-Man, there were times he's grown up in front of our eyes. Right. So it's gonna be interesting, and I'll watch it and I'll keep an open mind. Yeah. But for the most, I'm not excited, but I'm also not like this is gonna suck.
I told Ronnie, I said I hope they stay away from a lot of the origin story traps that usually get put out there with Marvel.
Yeah.
So and they tend to do that. But yeah, I'm more excited about it today than I was yesterday. So
word.
Yes, and that wraps up our news.
Oh,
you
man,
want to take us to commercial?
Yeah. Well, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're talking about
Birdman.
I'm so excited.
Today's episode is brought to you by Raise Energy Drinks from RepSports. Whether you're trying to crush your afternoon workout or just need a little extra pick-me-up, Raise Energy is just the boost that you're going to need. So if you go to RepSports.com and any product that you order, enter the code Misfit89 at checkout to receive 15% off. Anything that you guys buy from that store helps our network grow, and we fully appreciate everything you guys do. That's Misfit89 at checkout, RepSports.com.
But first, a quick break.
And welcome back to the Multiverse Fancast. So today we are looking at Oscar time because in just a couple weeks, in less than 2 weeks, if you're hearing this on a Monday, the Oscars are coming around. And leading up to that, we thought what we would do is look at some Oscar-worthy stuff from the superhero realm. And next week, we are going to be looking at sort of our own little nominations for superheroes and who should have won. Because as you all know, superhero movies do not get a lot of the Oscar love because they are just not much like comedies, I have to say, too. Comedies don't get a lot of love either. And horror, it's mostly like if you die on screen, you get an Oscar. That's pretty much the attitude of the Academy. So this week...
Or if you survive a bear attack...
Which is the same director, actually.
You're welcome.
So this week, what I thought was I would throw something out there to everybody that is a little bit different, off the beaten path for us. This movie is called Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. This movie came out in 2014, and it is not traditionally a superhero movie, but it is a movie about a guy who played a superhero. So
it's about Adam West.
Paul, tell us about what is Birdman about?
Birdman is a very interesting movie because it is open to 4 trillion different interpretations, especially the ending. But basically, just quick summary is that it's about a struggling actor played by Michael Keaton named Regan Thompson. And he played the character called Birdman for 3 movies. He's like famous for it, and he's trying to break out of that trope, right? This is still the time where superhero, this was 2016? 2014.
Yeah.
Wow. So 8 years ago, where superhero movies were big and they were well known, but they weren't the behemoths they are right now.
We were like 2 years after the Avengers, and that's about it. And that was itself a big thing, but it wasn't where we are now. So yeah, we were on the road.
So he's trying to put on a play in Broadway and to get out.
What's the name of the play? What we talk about when we talk about love, I think is the name of it.
Yes, it's a Broadway adaptation of Raymond Carver's short story, What We Talk About When We Talk About Love. And he's producing it, he's writing, directing, starring in a Broadway adaptation of it. But the entire time he is hallucinating his Birdman character. The Birdman character is trying to convince him that he is Birdman, like it is a part of him, and that he should actually be doing another Birdman movie.
And the Birdman, it should be noted that the Birdman talks in the voice of Christian Bale's gruff, like this. Like
and he's in full costume too. Like it is a fully costume character. So seeing the trailers for this movie, I was under the impression that this guy actually did have the way that the trailers presented themselves made it seem like he was an actual superpowered being. And like the trailers didn't tell anything about he was an actor trying to put on a play. It was more like he was a superhero that's retired.
Yeah.
And also that this was the time where that trope was big. The retired superhero.
Oh, really? What else was
you got your movies like Watchmen around the same time. You know, The Dark Knight Returns was getting made into its adaptation. So like the retired superhero was around.
Okay.
I would say it's before The Dark Knight Rises and what else? Logan's another big one.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's true. I guess this was sort of had that vibe to it.
It had a similar vibe. So that's what the trailer presented itself as.
And what we got was something...
We don't even know.
I don't even know. Yeah.
This is the kind of movie that either all took place or was all in his head.
None of it did.
And that's what the director wanted. The director wanted to create a film that was open to 1,000 different interpretations. So let's very quickly get this out of the way. Spoiler warning.
Okay, folks,
we're going to spoil the movie
are.
because this is a movie that the ending alone.
Yeah.
And also, they make fun of the idea of Oscars and Academy Awards in this movie. And we're going to talk about that because Rob made a comment about how you basically have to die in a movie to get your Academy Award, and they poke fun at that concept in this.
So right now, I'm going to tell you, and I'm this is strange. If you have not seen Birdman, stop listening right now to us. Go watch Birdman. Come back to us at another time because you'll thank us for it. Because even if you don't love it, you will be so curious about what you just watched. Oh, yeah. One of the reasons why I put this on our schedule is because I am an enormous fan of this movie. So I want this sort of like discussion for me is going to be, this is like a Multiverse fan cast recommends kind of section for me where you really need to see this. And Paul is mostly on board with me on this. He's sort of in the middle. Ronnie, I don't think he even saw it.
He did. I think he did.
Oh, he did finally see it?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know it's free on Tubi.
Yes.
Ironically, when I was at the grocery store or Rite Aid the other day, I saw it there, and I was like, huh, it's funny. It's chasing me around.
Go see it because I cannot recommend this enough. All right, so now we're in spoiler section completely. So it turns out he does not actually have superpowers,
Until the last...
And even then, we're not 100% sure. So the director, let me tell you who the director is. The director is Alejandro Gonzalez. He is one of my favorite directors. I actually had the pleasure of meeting him years ago when he did his movie Babel with Brad Pitt.
I remember that.
Yeah, I think that was like 2005. We are lucky enough to live near the Jacob Burns Film Center in Pleasantville, New York. And over there, Janet Maslin, who used to be head critic of the New York Times, is there. And I've seen many of her talks, and she's a great interviewer. And she interviewed him there, and he was there. Deborah Winger was there too. Because Deborah Winger is on the board at the Jacob Burns Film Center. And so they get a lot of big names over there. And he was there promoting Babel. And he was a fun interview. He's an interesting guy. He's very unique. And he is part of this trio of Mexican filmmakers. It's him, Guillermo del Toro, and Alfonso Cuarón. Del Toro, and again, two of my other favorite ones. Del Toro did things like Pan's Labyrinth. He just did Nightmare Alley, which is up for a best picture. He also, and then Alfonso Cuarón, who did one of the Harry Potters. He did the third one, and he also did Gravity, which one?
Oh, yeah.
So these are like three really highly talented guys. And I have to bring this up because the aspects that are employed in this film is called magical realism. I don't know how familiar you are with magical realism.
Enough that I can understand it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's something that is, I will say, it's imbued in a lot of Mexican literature. It's a style of literary fiction where it's the real world. Everything is very much grounded in the real world, but magic exists in that world too, and it's just like a common part of everyone's existence that you accept. It's not questioned, you don't try and figure out where it comes from, but magical realism is usually put into films and literature to show the depths of someone's struggle and depression and just how much of a hard time they're going through. And in this realm here, apparently only Michael Keaton's character has powers.
Or does he? He's actually could just be crazy as hell.
Is he?
I think that he is.
You think he goes off the deep end?
I think that in a lot of this movie, he's an unreliable narrator because he's the one telling the story. For those of you guys who don't know, the unreliable narrator is a fictional trope where basically it's somebody telling the story, but they're telling it completely based on their own thoughts and views and opinions and all that. It's not like this happened to me. It's like, I think this happened. Most recently, Birds of Prey, narrated literally by Harley Quinn, who's crazy. Yeah. That's why it's so completely out of order. A Memento's another good one.
Yep.
Where you'd Fight Club.
Yep. The unreliable narrator.
So
I for literature, I've always talked about Catcher in the Rye with Holden Caulfield as a very unreliable narrator.
The worst.
You don't know if you should be trusting him or not because everything he says about himself is through his own thoughts. Right. So you don't get another person outside.
And that's why even some of the other characters in this, like Edward Norton played Mike Shiner and he's a terrible person. And with a name like Mike Shiner, like he attempts to sexual assault of one of the other characters on stage.
Yes, in front of an audience.
Like, but that's also that's like making fun of the method acting trope and all that stuff. And also it's Edward Norton, who's notoriously difficult on stage. So like they poke fun at a lot of these things. And then obviously at one point he tries to kill himself on stage.
Yeah.
And he gets a standing ovation because they all think it's part of the show.
Yeah.
He is, you know, as much as we root for him because we like feel for him, he's still, we don't know if this story's taking place completely in his head. He could be waking up in the hospital just imagining all of this just happens.
Yeah. And the movie, as Paul has alluded to, the movie ends with him in a hospital having shot the nose off his own face. And then he goes to the window and jumps out. But
after he says goodbye to Birdman in the bathroom.
Which and he sort of, doesn't he agree, I think, to go back to playing Birdman at one point?
I know that's like the constant.
And then after he jumps out, his daughter, played by Emma Stone.
Emma
Stone. I always get the Emmas mixed up between Watson and Stone.
Watson and Stone.
She goes to the window to look for him, and she looks up and smiles as if he's flying away.
Yeah.
And
whereas he could have just gotten stuck on a clothes hanger. And he's just hanging out there with his ass hanging out.
We have no idea. Like, it's very open to, as you said, a lot
of different interpretations.
Yeah.
But I love how this movie plays with also a lot of the things. Like there's a lot of, like, if Adam West tried to get out of the Batman trope kind of that mentality with that. But they make fun of, like, Twitter and how he gets, he gets locked out of his room and he has to run to the stage, run to the show in his underwear. Yeah. That went viral with the actual trailer, too.
Oh, yeah.
But in the movie, it goes viral because everybody tweets about it. And he's like, what's Twitter? You know, like, that sort of, like, old man trope. And then at the end, he gets a glowing review after blowing half his face off. Mm-hmm. I know it's just his nose, but it's funnier when I say face off. Like that movie Face Off. And like he gets a standing ovation, a glowing review, his Twitter's blowing up. And like and it also helps solve his problems.
And that the mask on his face when he's in the hospital very much resembles the Birdman mask too. So it's sort of like he's learned to embrace his
nose is all swollen because they put it back together again. The unreliable narrator. You can't put a nose back together when it gets blown completely off your face.
So there's a lot of directions I want to go with this. I have about 3 of them here.
All
so
right.
my first one is all of the fun that it pokes at with the superhero genre. It pokes fun at. There's jokes about George Clooney, who did play Batman almost directly after Michael Keaton did. Michael Keaton references, he says, I haven't played Birdman since 1992, which is actually when he played Batman Returns. Like, he's poking fun at himself. He talks about, the Avengers. He says, they need a new actor because their main actor got hit with a light from the ceiling.
The light fixture, yeah.
And they need a new actor. And he says, well, how about we get Jeremy Renner? He goes, he's an Avenger now. And it's just tons and tons and tons of jokes about the industry. There's the whole Birdman, the idea that Michael Keaton, and you have to wonder too how much of it is autobiographical with Michael Keaton. I think
to a point.
Yeah, after playing Birdman, that was a slip. After playing Batman, I wonder how much he was taken seriously as an actor in terms of he's just playing a superhero.
Yeah.
And it also then pokes fun, and this is an argument that we've had on this show a lot, is how seriously can you take someone when they are in a superhero movie?
I think that's changed in more recent years.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Tom Holland. There was a lot of argument for Best Actor nominations for him for Spider-Man. The one scene of him with May, and then with him actually about to kill the Green Goblin, people were talking about it. Nowadays, look at Logan. Logan should have gotten some buzz for whether it was Hugh Jackman himself or Best Adaptation or something along those lines. But back in 2012, 2014-ish,
if you remember, what was Robert Downey Jr. like when he took on Iron Man in 2008?
Oh, train wreck.
Yeah, he was a washed-up actor. He was someone that he had a huge drug problem. He got caught in a motel room with a Wonder Woman outfit and
like a briefcase full of cocaine.
Yeah. I mean, he
They
was
make
done.
fun of that, though. Did you ever see when Tropic Thunder was coming out?
Yeah, I remember that.
Ben Stiller, him, and Jack Black did like a joke at one of the MTV Movie Awards where they were trying to create a viral video.
Yeah.
And, Robert Downey Jr. is like reading a magazine about Iron Man because it had just come out at the time, like makes $1 billion. But one of the best lines is, maybe I'd have your attention if I got caught in a hotel room with 2 hookers and a case of blow. And Robert Downey Jr. is a good sport about it. But yeah.
that was superhero movies were the sort of the dumping ground for a lot of washed up actors. That's where you went to die because you couldn't do anything else. And then Robert Downey Jr. is laughing the last laugh because he's making worth $50 million movie for Iron Man.
Worth millions, I'd even argue worth billions at this time.
Oh, absolutely. So there's a lot of jokes about that. They make fun, they make fun of Robert Downey Jr., George Clooney, Jeremy Renner, and it's just the whole superhero concept of like these. If you do a superhero movie, you're not a real actor,
and that's why black comedies, especially, and satires work really well.
Yeah.
I enjoy a good black comedy, but unfortunately, black comedies feels like every single black comedy is open to interpretation in every, and that's part of there's a movie that Sean from Cinematic Adventures and I really enjoy called In Bruges.
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah,
In Bruges is
with Colin
fantastic.
Farrell.
It is fantastic, man, but it's a dark comedy, and then the ending is very open to ambiguity, it's interpretation. So it gives me the same vibes as this movie, and that's why I mentioned
Martin
it.
McDonagh actually wrote that one, and he does a lot of dark stuff.
Yeah.
He did 7 Psychopaths, which oddly enough I saw with Martin McDonagh at the Jacob Burns Film Center.
That's
Again,
funny.
Jacob Burns Film Center in Pleasantville.
That's
New
where we
York.
went to go see In Bruges.
Oh, really?
That's the only place it was playing it.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
They're a great art house. But they, one of the arguments that's brought up in this film is there's a dichotomy, a split, a gulf between low art and high art. That superhero movies are low art. And we've talked about this. Martin Scorsese.
Oh, he hates superhero movies. Thinks that they're ruining the industry. A lot of directors are saying that superheroes and big blockbuster movies are ruining the industry, to which we all say, nay.
Yeah.
We are the knights that say nay.
Nay. It's knee, but that's okay.
I know, but in this case, it works for my
for this metaphor.
For my metaphor,
I believe I just heard Francis Ford Coppola recently talk out against superhero movies.
They're more upset because it's affecting what they consider art, and art is subjective. And I hate when people say, "Hey, what you do isn't art." We have a podcast with a very loyal listener following. We are not the Joe Rogan show, but that doesn't mean.
God.
Yeah. Well, I'm just talking like in terms of just pure size and popularity. We are not of that level, but we still do a product that we're not only proud of, but like people enjoy.
Sure.
And it doesn't mean that just because one does differently than another doesn't mean that it's bad. So I hate when filmmakers are like, well, superhero movies aren't real art. I'm like, that's like saying we had the same argument with graphic novels aren't real books.
Right.
Of course they are.
And I do understand some of what they're saying because there's a difference, and we had this argument on air, the difference between movies and film. And that, and that's sort of something that comes up in here, that there's a difference between hero movies and theater. That one, I forget if she works for I think she claims she works for the New York Times. I forget the one critic that he talks to in the bar all the time.
I don't remember.
That she already tells him before, when she meets him in the bar, she says,
"Oh, I'm gonna destroy your movie.
I'm gonna destroy your play. I'm
play,
gonna give you a bad review." And he's like, "You haven't even seen it." And I love this line from her. She says, "You're not an actor. You're a celebrity." And that just he has no response to that. She just walks away from that and that's right after he has this big talk with her about critics. Critics are what happens when you can't produce a product. You criticize everyone else because you can't do anything for yourself. And then she just cuts him out with that line.
I do agree with that, though. Like I'm not one of those like those who can't teach or something like that mentality.
Those who can't teach Jim.
Yeah. Well, Rob's a teacher, I forgot. But what I'm saying is, like, if a random guy on the street came up to me and said, "Man, you're fat," I'd be like, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
Like, but if like The Rock came up and he's like, "Man, you're fat," I'd be like, "No, Dwayne." Like if somebody's really good at something and they offer advice about what worked for them and what they do, you better believe I'm going to listen to them instead of Joe Schmo on the street who, is just like rambling at me. Critics are a lot like that. Don't get me wrong. You could be a critic of something and still have a knowledge based on it, but I will always take the the thoughts of somebody who's more heavily involved with whatever they're talking about, whether they did it at one point, whether they currently do it, except for obviously all these directors that hate superhero films.
And I love that there, and another argument that's brought up a lot is the idea of authenticity, of what it means to be a true actor, that you have to give everything that you are. And that's why, like, Edward Norton's character, he like starts railing against, when he gets first hired for the play, he starts railing about, like, look at these fake sets, this fake this. He wants to make everything real, to the point where he's willing to rape his co-star on stage, which is just awful. But everything he wants to do, like when he's drinking, he gets mad because he originally had real alcohol in his cup, and Michael Keaton's character switches it out and he loses it in front of the audience and everything. Is that true, that in order to be, and that's a debate that comes up, is authenticity achieved by giving everything that you are to a role?
Mm-hmm. You've seen a lot, especially, like, here's a perfect example. Robert Pattinson has been doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff as Batman, and it's very interesting watching him take a second, like he's like goofing around and he's talking in his British accent and he's wearing the Batman suit, and then he'll suddenly turn it on. Yeah. And it's an incredible thing to watch. It's very incredible to watch people who are skilled in that sort of thing. Actors are very talented for the most part. They're very skilled. They have a certain ability that most people don't have. And then a lot of people think that they do. Yeah. But there's always the argument for method acting and how far one should go. Edward Norton, ironically enough, is known for
extreme method acting.
Not to the highest extreme,
right,
like
not like a Heath Ledger
or a Daniel Day-Lewis.
Ooh.
Daniel Day-Lewis, for those of you guys who don't know, he'll go full method. He will be that character for months.
Oh yeah, like with the Phantom Thread, he went and he became an Italian tailor for like 6 months.
Yeah, they poke fun of that again. Tropic Thunder reference, and I Tropic Thunder is one of my favorite satires of the film industry, and it still gets flack. They're like, "Well, we can't show that now." I'm like, You're missing the point then. The whole point is to point out how weird Hollywood gets with things. So basically, for those of you guys who haven't seen Tropic Thunder, Robert Downey Jr. plays an Australian method actor who undergoes a controversial pigmentation surgery to play a black character. That's the joke.
Oh yeah.
And they viciously make fun of it. The one black guy, and it's like they had one good role for a black guy.
They gave it
to Crocodile Dundee.
I love when someone says "you people" and Robert Downey Jr. goes, "What do you mean, you people?" And the black man on the set goes, "What do you mean, you people?"
It's funny, and that's what satire is, and that's what this movie is. And Robert Downey Jr.'s character says, "Man, I don't break character until I do a DVD commentary." And that's what they poke fun of at this movie, and that's why I do really enjoy this movie. I'll be honest, I saw it once in its entirety, and then I've seen bits and pieces. Like if it's very rarely on. It's not one of those movies that you'll see like suddenly playing on like an IFC or.
I know, which is ironic because it won 4 Oscars.
It made $103 million on an $18 million budget, and I do enjoy it. But the problem that I think I ran into, and I think other people did too, was expecting one thing, right, especially at the height of Avengers. Like this is you laugh, but this was the time where superheroes finally they broke through that barrier, which was really created by critics who hated superhero movies and didn't take them as a serious art. And also, in fairness, we had your Fantastic Fours, Batman and Robins, like those movies that just weren't that good.
Yeah, this won 9. This was up for 9 Oscars and won 4 of them. It was up for sound mixing, sound editing, cinematography. It won, and then it was also nominated. Michael Keaton, Edward Norton, and Emma Stone were all nominated, and then it won for cinematography. It won for best writing, and it won best directing and best picture of the year. But yeah, it is not easy to find. It's on Tubi. Like you would think this would be on Netflix or something, and so I have to say, I rewatched it about 2.5 weeks ago, and for me, it was like still watching it for the first time. It was just so exciting for me.
It's a movie that also warrants rewatchability because you see it through different lenses.
Oh my gosh, I told Paul before we started this, I could put this movie on repeat in my house forever because it is just so. I get so sucked into it because it's just so cool. So yeah, there's so many commentaries it makes about him. And this is the last of the commentaries I'll say, is the idea that making superhero movies is easy celebrity status. And that's why, the Birdman voice is constantly like
Harry
this
Styles in Eternals. Throw a celebrity in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That there's the Birdman is like this little character on his shoulder going, come on, you want to come back into this. You want to do this again. There's like a bunch of characters. Oh, that's right. The crew gave him a copy of the Birdman poster.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of Japanese businessmen who start shouting
Birdman.
at him that want him to do Birdman 4.
Yeah.
And by the end, he kind of does say, he kind of wants to go back to playing Birdman because that's an easy thing to do. It's easy to be that. Whereas, to be a theater actor, and that's another thing, to be a theater actor, you're putting on, let's see, 8 shows a week.
Yeah.
And you have to go through that cycle of acting 8 times. Whereas, with a movie, you do a couple takes and then, okay, we got it. Let's move on to the next thing. So the idea that theater is really literally giving your blood on the stage is put into very dramatic effect when he shoots his face off.
And also, I mean, look at it like if I was an actor or if I'm a normal person, where's my line? Where's my pride stop? And if somebody was like, hey, we'll give you $20 million to go do that movie that everybody wants, I'd be like, well,
Yeah.
Like where and especially for superhero blockbuster movies, I mean, look at Robert Downey Jr. is making obscene money. They would pay him so much to reprise his role. And that's probably one of the reasons that they didn't have him in What If, because he's too expensive. Yeah. And also I hate to say it, he's also older. Like he's the first one to be like, I don't think I can keep doing this.
Yeah.
Like he's not like, Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth are young guys. They're in fantastic physical condition. Robert Downey Jr. was playing Iron Man for 10 years. Yeah. Like I think he was like 48 when he started.
Yeah, he's older already.
He's in his 60s. Like, you can only do this for so long, but if they offered the right amount of money, or if they even offered, hey, we'll finance 3 of your films if you come back.
Yeah, we'll do something for you if you do this for us.
They do that all the time. That's how there's this horrible movie called Movie 43.
Oh, I've seen bits and pieces of it.
We saw it in theaters. Oh my God. The graphic description of what that movie did to me, I can't even say on this show.
I've heard it's considered one of the worst movies ever made.
It is. And basically how it's an interesting, it's, you know what though? I will say, if you want to see how Hollywood works, this is how Hollywood works. Basically, Movie 43 is an anthology movie where it's this guy breaks into a Hollywood producer's studio and pitches all these horrific ideas for a movie. And they get an A-plus list of actors. Halle Berry, Hugh Jackman, Kate Winslet, Chloe Grace Moretz. Like, that's just some of them. Chris Pratt, Anna Faris when they were still together, huge. Liev Schreiber, all these A-list actors and actresses. And basically what happened was they all got tricked into this movie by, all right, well, if you do this movie, we'll pay you this amount, but you got to do this movie.
Is that why they're in it? I don't think I knew that.
That is how that movie came into fruition. It is horrific. But, it begs the question, where do I draw a line as a professional actor where they offer me enough? Am I going to be able to say no to $20 million?
I know. And then the question also comes up is, how do I, once I've sold out, how do I bring back my legitimacy? How do I become a real actor again and be taken seriously? Like right now, Daniel Craig just finished off the Bond series.
Oh, he's never coming back.
No. And what's he doing right now?
Knives Out too.
He's on, that too. He's on Broadway.
Yeah.
He is starring on Broadway with Ruth Negga doing Macbeth, which that's how you get taken seriously again. You go back to your roots. And when these huge actors go to Broadway, they don't get paid their Hollywood money. They get paid, standard wages. They don't get, a lot thrown at them. So it's for the prestige. It's for the status, and it's for bringing back legitimacy. And so a lot of big actors come to Broadway and we're lucky that we only live maybe an hour from Broadway. So some of these shows, we've been to. But sometimes some of these big actors come to Broadway thinking they can be a legitimate actor and be taken seriously, and they're just laughed off the stage a lot of times.
Yeah. George Reeves, famous for, I don't know if it's an urban legend, kind of like him, the kid pulling a gun on him in a public showing, but there's a rumor that he tried to do another movie and people laughed at the premiere, and they were calling him Superman during it.
Yeah, like I'm looking at some of the actors that have come onto Broadway. Bruce Willis did Misery, which it was awful, I heard. Pacino did China Doll, which was terrible. Now, Al Pacino, to his credit, he did come back and he did The Merchant of Venice in Shakespeare in the Park, and he was fantastic. Amelia Clarke was in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Ricky Martin did Evita on Broadway. You know, so Brendan Fraser did a Broadway play. So there's like a lot of stars who have bombed on Broadway, and they were just awful. Julia Roberts did a show on Broadway in 3 Days of Rain. And, you know, so Michael Keaton's character is sort of treated that way of like, you're not a real actor, you're just a celebrity, and you're just here to sort of make yourself look good. And then so when he is able to, you know, put his whole self onto the stage and literally give his life for his audience and his art, that's where, you know, the Times critic just raves about him and says how incredible he is because he's willing to do that. So let's talk now. We'll wrap this up by talking about the actual making of this movie, and because it's unique from any movie that we've seen before. So what makes this so unique in terms of the way it looks and the way it's shot.
I'm not sure where you're going with this, so I'm going to let you actually just say it.
So the idea that how the film is shot in a seemingly single take.
Oh yeah, okay. I wasn't sure where.
So tell us about that.
So for those of you guys who don't know, a single take is basically usually you'll get extended takes. It's designed that the camera is just staying on. It's one single camera done in one continuous take with no cuts, no editing shifts, nothing like that. Basically, it's designed to make it seem like they just literally hit record and they went. Yep. It's not always. There are very few movies that actually do the entirety in a single take. What was the war movie? 1812 or 1917? Excuse me. The War of 1812.
Well, you had the right year for a war.
In my defense, but 1917, that movie was done almost in an entire. There is one or two cuts that people have found, and the directors are honest. We're like, we tried to do it, but it's easier to do extended takes. Daredevil's another good one where they do the hallway scene. Old Boy with their famous hallway scene. Usually it's some sort of action set piece that they try and do in one long take.
There's a movie I have to highly recommend this to everyone out there. I don't know if you've seen this. It's called One Cut of the Dead. It is a Japanese film where they are making a zombie movie, and the first 40 minutes are the zombie movie itself. It's all done in one take. And then the second half of the movie is all the things they had to do to make that a single cut, and it's hysterical.
Oh, that's good.
And it's a really, really, it's called One Cut of the Dead. So yeah, I'm looking up in Birdman, there are only 16 visible cuts in the entire movie, and even those are hidden.
Yeah, everything's well edited.
In fact, there were more cuts in the trailer than there were in the movie altogether.
That's fair. Yeah.
And I read this too, that because it was done in only long takes, it only took them 2 weeks to edit the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's no editing that needed to be done. So what's the effect then of this single long take? It kind of makes it like you really there. There's a sense of realism to it, that things are really happening and you're there. And also everything is shot up so close, too.
It feels
to
like,
the actors.
And it's also a little bit more first-person perspective for the audience.
Yes, that we are a character in this sort of play, and we're watching things as they're unfurling.
Like, it's not like if I'm sitting here right now looking at Rob, then suddenly I'm immediately looking over there.
Yeah.
Like to my left. Like without turning my head and like changing direction of my own volition.
Yeah, it does a lot of those Wes Anderson-y kind of pans over to a different angle and then back, like you're sort of turning your head. Yeah, the whole film is like a high wire act of balance that you're just waiting for something to go wrong or something.
Don't get high before watching this movie also.
No. Not that I have any experience with that whatsoever, but I would imagine that would make it difficult viewing.
Oh my god, it's an acquired taste movie. It's not for everyone. Well, like honestly, especially from like when I first saw it, expecting a superhero movie. I appreciate it now as somebody who, you know, especially it being in the medium that we're currently in. So for me, like it was jarring the first time I saw it, but I still appreciated it after I saw it.
Oh my gosh, and also in addition to the close angles, you have, I believe he uses a lot of natural light. And he does exteriors, and everything is around the St. James Theater, which I think I've been in. I think I saw Cat on a Hot Tin Roof there years ago with the local legend James Earl Jones.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a very nice theater, but it's everything is shot there. And as Paul said, there's one scene where he is locked out during a show in his underwear, and he has to make his way through Times Square back to the front of the building with just all the crowds. Now, my understanding was they shot that at midnight, and a lot of the people there were extras.
Yeah.
But there were a few people that were not, that were watching this, and it did, you said it went viral on Twitter?
It went viral. Well, no, it went viral in the movie.
Oh, in the movie,
but
right.
it was like the famous shot
Oh,
from
right,
the trailer.
on Twitter,
Like
yes.
that's one that everybody was talking about him in his underwear.
And Michael Keaton
Good for
is
him.
just balls out gutsy with this role. He is amazing.
Oh yeah, he
with
gives it his all.
I love. He's got one line that he is so self-deprecating, and he says, "Well, I can't be Birdman again. I look like a turkey with leukemia." God, he is so self-deprecating, and he just gives it his all. It's worth it for his performance alone. He and Edward Norton have such great chemistry, and they butt heads and have a hysterical fist fight. And then the other technical aspect that I really want to talk about is the music, that they put a sort of jazz drum score to the entire thing, and it plays, I would say, easily for 60% of the movie.
For a lot of it, yeah.
Yeah. They submitted it to the Academy to win Best Oscar, and they were ineligible because they said there were too many classical cues in it.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, whatever. And they're like, no, we think it's brilliant. And it actually won awards from lots of other sources. But
God, the Academy's weird.
and this year we have even more reason to be angry at the Academy because they are cutting out 8 different awards and doing it an hour beforehand and pre-taping it, and then they're going to show us. And no one's happy about it. Nobody likes it.
No.
So screw you, Academy. So I believe that's everything that I wanted to say about Birdman. So let's give it our Star City rating. And I'm going to let you go first with this.
I give it a solid 4. It's only because it's not necessarily my immediate genre that I jump into, but I give it a 4. It is a great look into Hollywood and acting and superhero movies in particular. Like I said, it wasn't what I expected, so that might be taking it down a little bit for me. But Keaton kills it in it. You know, Zach Galifianakis. This was like
we didn't even mention Zach Galifianakis.
This is him like right after The Hangover, where really people were not taking him seriously, but he does a great job in it. He's very likable in it. Emma Stone.
Gosh, we didn't mention Emma
didn't
Stone,
mention the cast.
Naomi Watts.
Edward Norton.
They're all amazing.
But, yeah, they have a great cast. So I'm gonna stick with a solid 4.
All right, I am gonna go pretty high on this one.
That's fine.
I can't quite give it a perfect score because it needs a couple more years to do that. So I am gonna give it 4 3/4, which might be the highest rating I think I've ever given on this show. This is how high I want to recommend Birdman. It is just fun from left to right. It is so interesting. Oh my gosh, we didn't even mention Amy Ryan is in this movie as his ex-wife. This is like the top echelon of great actors that exist in Hollywood, and they're all together in close-up for a single take movie that lasts 2 hours, and you never know, like from 1 minute to the next, you never know what's going to happen next. You don't, he jumps out a window at the end too,
and we don't know what happened to him.
So that will wrap us up for this week with Birdman. I really, really, really hope you go out and check out Birdman if you haven't, as a nice primer for the Academy Awards, as you can see what good movies look like.
What it takes to make a superhero-ish Academy Award nominee. But yeah, I highly recommend it. No fan feedback Friday this week, just because we are recording a little bit earlier because it is Ronnie's wedding. So make sure you guys extend your warm congratulations to him. And if you guys are looking for more content, you can find us on our website, themisfitfaction.com. There you'll find links to all of our reviews, our store, which is brand new. Make sure you guys take a look at that. You can also find us on Facebook, Multiverse Fancast. You can find us on Twitter and the Misfit Faction. You can find us on Instagram, the Misfit Faction Media Network, YouTube. Basically, you type in Misfit Faction, there's a fair chance you're going to find some of our content. So make sure you guys check that out.
All right. And thank you very much for joining us. As always, I am Rob.
And I'm Paul.
And we'll be back.
No, you got to say it. You're hosting.
I have to say it. All right. We'll be back in a flash. Smorgasbord. Ah!
I'm just going to edit that out anyway. So, I mean...